All right, call the meeting to order. Any items from the public? Since there is none, I'll accept the motion to
The agenda?
approve the agenda. Yes, sir.
If there's
Thank
no
you.
changes or modifications, I move we approve the agenda for Thursday, January the 13th, 2022.
All right, have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Any questions on the purchase order?
Mr. President, if I may just point out one expenditure. It's one that you've already approved, and it's on the next to the last page of your purchase order log at the very top. There's a payment to the West Virginia Department of Transportation in the amount of $74,289. If you will remember, on November 4th of last year, H.D. Boyd appeared before the council to talk about the grant that the Roundhouse had received from the state. It was a pretty substantial grant, but the grant required a 20% match, to which this council agreed that we would fund half of the 20% if the city committed to the other half, which they did. Last week we received, your office actually received the grant documents from the West Virginia Department of Transportation, and as part of that, of the grant documents, they've requested that the total amount of the project is $742,888.75. They requested that when the grant application is returned, that they also have the matching funds in the amount of $148,577.75 available. So this is actually something that you've committed to back in November, and this fulfills our commitment to the Roundhouse as part of that discussion.
And that money's going to be used again, Dan, for the floor and the bridge shop and.
It's going to be used for the concrete, the elevator shaft, and the staircases from the second floor all the way down. There's an old steel staircase structure that surrounds the elevator shaft and works its way down on the back right corner of that building and in the new floor system. The city actually, outside of this, the city actually agreed to give another $125,000 to the Roundhouse to fund the HVAC system in that building.
Okay. All right.
Plus the match that
Right.
that we gave.
Right.
So they're giving the Roundhouse about $200,000.
All right. There's going to be another great place to put a water chiller plant
Yeah.
and take care of all the buildings.
And you know, after we did some we've done some research, and with Matt's help, I've been looking at the whole thing, and Alan's help, we looked into the only thing that will prevent that from moving forward 100% at this point is so a couple handicap accessible doors, and we found out from your buddy that that if it's a ADA requirement, it doesn't have to meet the historical. So we're going to try to put some doors with panic bars on it inside of the doors that are already there, so we don't have to open up the big doors all the time. We'll be able to do that. And then and then the second floor, when originally the second floor was renovated, they put some of the rods coming down back in that are cast instead of steel. And there's a question on the integrity of those to meet the floor level or the floor load level of 120 pounds per square foot. So we have to have those tested, and if they fail, obviously they have to be replaced in order to meet that.
I thought that was tested several years ago, or there was a talk about them being tested.
There was an engineered report on the whole thing that said they needed to be tested, and that was done several years ago, but nobody's ever tested them. And Alan wrote up an RFP for us to send out, and presented that to the board last night. And the goal is to go ahead and send that out and get responses and find out what it is. And once we get the money for that and everything, we, moving on. We've got meetings set up for the next couple weeks to start that whole process of the bidding process and all that. So
I would think a really nice HVAC system would be over $1 million.
well, and you're exactly right. If you put in something all out, but the idea was to get something in that will make it operational. And keep in mind, that building's only going to be heated at use, so it's not going to be something that's going to be heated all the time. So that makes a big difference too. But it's several units that they're proposing to put in there.
All right. Any other questions or concerns about the grant match? All right. Mr. Davis, you have a couple of internal budget revisions?
Yes, sir. I have two internal budget revision requests, both coming from Chief Court Marshal Mike Lang for Department 416 Court Security. Both are submitted to correct line item deficits. The first request, Mr. Lang's requesting that he be allowed to decrease line 230, contracted services, by $2,000. Current unencumbered fund balance is $2,700 with 0% spent to date, and increase line 221, training and education, by $2,000. That line currently has a deficit balance of $1,385.24. The second request, again, Department 416, Chief Lang's requesting that he be allowed to decrease line 220, advertising and publications, by $966. Current unencumbered fund balance is $1,000, and increase line 223, professional services, by $996. That line currently has a deficit balance of $995.25.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Davis on the budget revisions? Moving on to change in status, we have a new hire recommendation received from the Honorable Katie Delligatti, prosecuting attorney for Megan Trivet, as a legal assistant with an annual salary of $35,000 effective January 24th, 2022. New hire recommendation received from Tim Zaya, Director of Community Corrections, for Patricia Prentice as a peer recovery coach with an annual salary of $37,509 effective January 18th, 2022. Change in status received from Honorable Katie Delligatti, prosecuting attorney for Jara Green. She is a lateral transfer from county clerk's office to the prosecuting attorney's office. Her salary would go from $32,000 to $36,000 effective January 24th, 2022. Any questions or concerns on the change in status? All right, we have the minutes from January 6th, 2022. Everyone was present. Any changes or corrections on those? Looking on to the county council calendars, on Monday will be a holiday for Martin Luther King.
So fortunate with that forecast.
I know, yeah.
They all get time to recover.
It was 10.9 inches, now it's 7.8 inches, and it's like,
I don't know what it is.
yeah.
It can be nothing, and I'd be
I like
happy.
the 0.9 and the 0.8.
Yeah.
That's pretty precise.
Oh yeah, they got down to a science now. They're right 50% of the time.
All right, we will be in the chambers on Thursday the 20th. The boards and commissions, we have fire board tonight at 6 p.m. here in the chambers. Nothing on Monday. Tuesday, 18th, 9 a.m. WRNR Councilperson Gokenhour. 11:30 a.m. Parks and Rec. 5 p.m. Sewer District. 6 p.m. Stormwater District. 6 p.m. Planning Commission. Wednesday, the 19th at 6 p.m. Solid Waste Authority. Any changes or corrections on the boards and commissions?
There's an MPO meeting. What is that? 19. There you go. Yeah, 1:30.
Okay. All right, so we'll add that to the calendar. Any others? All right, moving on to the bond release that we tabled last week, Pebble Ridge, Section 5, Phase 3D, Final Plat, BCP file number 2011-320329, tied to BCP file number 63-04, LOC number is 360. The Grant County Bank is the bonding company and engineering department. We tabled it last week and it's back on today. So we did check into this, and Anthony, you've checked into it, and basically this is a Section 5 Phase 3D that doesn't have anything to do with any other phase. Is that correct, Brian and Anthony?
That is correct. This bond can't be used for any of the other phases.
Right.
This phase is complete. So,
Okay.
whether there was a problem, and we talked about the problem that happened 10 or 12 years ago,
Right.
it's something that's separate.
All right. So basically, the recommendation is to move forward with this one, and is that correct, Brian?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All right. So anybody have any issues, want to talk about that or anything like that? It has been looked at, and everything on this phase has been done, and it's looking for a bond release. So, all right. So need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Have a
Second.
motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Nothing from the assessor this morning?
We'll probably not have anything for the next couple of months.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. All right, moving on to board and meeting reports, Mr. Barnhart.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I had a water district meeting Monday. It's a officers, Greg Rose chairman, Lynn Levin is vice chairman. We're working on the generators for the river plant. They got one in and one to come. They approved the Tabor Station out LLC and the villas at Warm Springs, which we work on the street closure of 15 villas.
They're gonna be on
Tutors.
15 of them there, huh?
Yeah. Tudor's Biscuit World was approved. There you go, Dan. Long service line at Hedgesville Road. And the updating the hydraulic model for $87,000 because it needs updating. And that's pretty much it.
All right,
Very short meeting.
Councilperson Delia.
Had the roundhouse meeting yesterday. I talked a little bit about this. It's a good bit of traction. We did appoint another new member, Clyde Young from Cox Holiday, to the foundation.
Old Clyde.
Yeah. So no, it's there's some good stuff happening. Hopefully over the next couple of weeks can report bids going out and get started on the construction in there.
You want to go ahead and give a report on the development authority since I wasn't able to make it?
I guess the biggest movement was what's the position called? Executive administrator, deputy administrator was given to Jennifer, promoted from within. So she was promoted yesterday into that position. So I guess they're going to have to start advertising for her position. We really don't have anything, any of the businesses out there that are ready to move forward from where they are. And there's actually a couple of new ones. One that Sandy actually missed the meeting. She had to be in a conference with during the meeting, moving forward. So there's several. I think we're still at 13 businesses right now that have interest and are moving forward. And there's one of them expected to close. Well, it was already expected to close, but it got postponed because the lending institution wanted a phase one done on the property. So
think one of the biggest things was on a phone call yesterday, Jim, is water availability for any other big user.
Yeah, well, they got plans, haven't really started, but the river plant, considering
Right.
doing some design changes to the river plant to increase the yield, and of course, once you do that, then they've got plans to run bigger water lines out of the river plant down Route 11, because, you can expand the plant, but unless you can improve the water distribution, it doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah.
Right, well, there's already 16-inch line to Route 9, so they gotta get to Grubbs Tower and then down, but all that planning, I mean, is funding condition.
The sad part about it is, and Mr. Rose said he never wanted to be in that position, is that we have people inquiring about it now all the time.
Well,
I
They
bet
just
that
worked
guy.
on the hydraulic model at the, last meeting, approved $87,000 to, so, all this stuff is known, and it just, you gotta work it out.
Yeah.
The city actually, I had a conversation with representatives from the city about a month ago, and they approved to start the modeling for the hydraulics on the with Big Springs to figure out the volume of what they have there available
Right.
for future.
Right. Well,
That's a lot.
And the biggest water
that's what I
user,
heard.
It's a lot.
biggest water user for the city of Martinsburg is Berkeley
Berkeley
County.
County. Right. But right now, I know there's a lot of people talking about it, and it probably could be the huge amount of water for different businesses, and right now, we can't guarantee it, I don't think, so,
Well, it depends a lot on where it is. If it's in Tabor Station, no,
right.
because
Or if
that's,
it's in South Berkeley, the only place you can really rely on a lot of water right now is in North.
real.
And they can't do that because of production on the filtering system at the water plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that'd be a quicker fix than anywhere else. What, and we're still working on, I mean, have we heard anything about the financing trying to get funding?
No. It's gonna be talked about this week, I think, some, but. All right, Council Vice President Whitaker.
Believe it or not, no meetings this past week, so it was all quiet.
All right. Councilperson Gokenhour.
Yes, the only thing I had was my meeting with Baker Heights yesterday. That facility is nearing completion. I think completed first week of February, and hopefully they'll be taking occupancy in the middle of February.
I was out there last week.
Were you?
Yeah. Young superintendent on that
Oh,
job.
yeah. He's good.
Yeah,
They do good work.
looked nice. Yeah. All right, I don't have any boards to report on, so, we'll move on. Board and commission vacancies, any activity there? All right. Since there is none, let's see, Rachel, are you ready? We're 20 minutes early, but if you're ready, we'll go. Good to see you. So we're here for the Region 9 fiscal year 2022-23 budget presentation, and tell us all the good things you've been doing.
Alrighty. So, I was back here in September. My full council had approved in August the assessment increase. And I just wanted to make note that Berkeley County has the most representatives on my board on finance and personnel. And I thank you all for your enthusiastic support along the way, because this has been quite a trying year. I do want to provide some perspective as to why the assessment has already given us dividends and what we're going to be doing in the future to try and defray future costs, and also why Region 9 is in a really unique position where we rely a lot more heavily on assessments than any of the other regional councils. And if I have time after I go through that, we'll hop on some of the projects. But so, had the assessment not been approved back in August, we would not be pursuing any broadband applications. Period. I would have had one staff person. So with the assessment increase, we're able to keep David, who's back there in the audience, who is probably going to be the next broadband czar of the state. He's an expert at it now. So Berkeley,
How's that-
Jefferson, and
how's that-
Morgan.
How's the broadband stuff going? Because that's one of our biggest, we get
Discussion
emails, we
request.
get
Yes.
phone calls about that at least once a week.
So the broadband plan that you got a grant for, I think, back when I worked here,
That was a $25,000 grant.
it's 50,000. Working with Design 9, and that was focusing mostly on wireless towers. Berkeley County just submitted an application for technical assistance for a plan for fiber lines. Mostly, probably it's going to be focusing on the western portion of the county. After that, technical assistance comes back and identifies who the best partners would be and where the best service would be, then we would apply for actual funding for fiber.
I see a lot of activity with cell towers going up. There's probably 3 new ones back in Back Creek Valley alone. And are they being put up for broadband, or what do you? All cellular? Right. Okay.
I know the state funding, they really pushed these plans out to focus on wireless, and then the Treasury guidelines came out, and now they're switching to push fiber. So we're doing the technical assistance plan, and then hopefully move forward with some fiber.
And I understand that they're pushing public-private, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think 2 weeks ago, Gary actually hit submit on the application for, it's called a gig ready.
Yeah, I know
Technical
we gave him
assistance.
direction to move forward with, I think, up to $1 million.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's something that's always funneled through Region 9. It's going to be the broadband stuff. So having someone on staff that can handle that, it's critical at this point. All the future infrastructure funding that's coming through the bills is going to be funneled through Region 9 or the economic development districts, just because we specialize in that, and that's where federal agencies kind of push it to. ARC, why you got a revised budget sent in. I sent it to Tracy about 2 weeks ago to swap out the budgets I'd submitted to you guys. ARC, the Appalachian Regional Commission, gave us an additional $18,000 in federal funding. However, we have to match that 50%, and we wouldn't have been able to match it had we not had the assessment increase. We would have had to turn down that $18,000. We were the only regional council that would have had to turn it down. With the assessment increase, I'm also going to be applying for a 4th staff person through EDA funding. It's going to be a contractual position, but it'll at least give us another person for 2 more years to help us with all these grants that are coming out. That's a 50% match. Again, we wouldn't have been able to match it had we not had the assessment increase. And having that staff person is going to be really critical in the coming weeks, months. So some of the things that I'm trying to do internally to defray future assessment increases as much as possible. Unfortunately, they are coming because even at our new levels, we are still the smallest regional council. We are the smallest funded, the lowest funded, one of the lowest funded regional councils. Kind of anecdotally, I sent a question out about finance questions to all the other regional directors, and they all kind of replied to me, well, we have have our on-call accountant do that, or we have our finance director do that. And I'm like, well, we have Google, so we're doing the best we can, but with all this money coming out, hopefully we'll be able to demonstrate the return on investment, especially with this new staff person. At our August meeting, when the full council approved the assessment increase, one of the mayors, I won't say who, asked me if I had asked for enough money, and I actually said no. I'm like, no, we can use more staff, of course, but I'm not going to quadruple assessments on everybody at once. We need to stagger this and do this thoughtfully. So in October, the full council decided to create an assessment committee, review committee, where every year we're going to look at projects. We're going to look at how it's affecting staff workload to see whether increases need to be made that year, to see how we can stagger it in a way that everybody can be prepared for it and afford it. I'm also working with a foundation to cross my fingers, hopefully form a nonprofit division of Region 9, and that staff person will work strictly with youth programs and education and humanitarian projects, only with 501c3s. This foundation is going to fund that position 100% and also pay Region 9 an administrative fee to oversee that position. So again,
Good.
admin fees for our office to support additional staff.
Great.
The West PEP Board, which is now no longer West PEP, is the Eastern West Virginia Economic Alliance. You can tell Nick that I got that correct. Had agreed to pay Region 9 $5,000 to administer the finances for West PEP. So again, trying to find other avenues for money, and not reaching out to our member governments. The regional councils are working together. The development office gives us $35,000 a year to help us match federal grants. By state law or state code, they're allowed to give us up to $40,000. I don't know why they're not giving us up to $40,000. Again, that state code has not been revised in over 20 years. So we have our legislative affairs official from Bulls Rice going to start working on maybe getting that changed and getting that amount increased for all the regional councils across the board. So I guess my last point is, why is Region 9's budget the lowest of all the 11 with all the assessments we do get? The reason for that is mostly because we are not coal impacted. We are the only 3 counties in the entire state that are not considered coal impacted. That precludes us from getting ARC grants and from CDBG grants, with some small exceptions. Those 2 grants are where the other regional councils draw enormous administrative fees from. They're allowed to get, in some cases, in CDBG, 20% of an entire project cost in admin fees. So there's 4 or 5 regional councils with budgets over $1 million. So they don't necessarily need to rely on assessments like we do, because they are eligible for grants that we just can't get
So
here.
they're eligible, so basically because like we're all eligible for coal and gas severance. So this is tied in with the coal business. Is that what you're saying?
So we don't have any distressed counties. We don't even have any distressed communities. Even Paw Paw is considered on the same level as Berkeley County.
Is that right?
Yes. I don't know who
okay.
makes these decisions, but so we can't even get ARC funding or CDBG funding for little towns like Paw Paw anymore. The town of Bath has one now. It's probably the last one they're going to get. But all of these other counties, they have they have at-risk counties or distressed counties, which makes them eligible for ARC grants.
You think Paw Paw would be eligible?
I think. I mean, their median household income is not
Yeah.
too high, but fortunately not. So that's why you see these other regional councils with 20 staff persons around the same assessment levels that I'm asking for. But you just don't get the admin. You can't get the admin fees because we're going after other grants that don't allow it.
So why don't you do me a favor then? Why don't you show me what their revenue is versus, do a comparison. Revenue versus what they bring in, and do a comparison with what you do, your staff.
Yeah. I mean,
Basically, typically sometimes bigger isn't better, and usually production goes down. So be looking for how much production gets done per person.
Right, and I know it's at a certain point, there's that kind of bell curve, that tipping point. Where we are now, now fortunately effective July 1st, technically, I'll have 2 staff that can work on any projects. My other staff person's strictly stormwater. I can easily use 3. I'm not trying to, Region 8 has 30 staff.
How many?
30. But they do a lot of other programs too. So hopefully I'll have, another staff person through the contractor, another staff person through the nonprofit, and we'll keep evaluating on an annual basis where we need to be. So yes, the assessments did increase. Should have that figure. The new amount is $57,292.95. I'm not going to speak on MPO's assessment. Theirs has not changed. They may be doing some redistricting because their service area is based on housing density and based on the new sentence that may change. So I don't know if their assessments are going to change or not in the next couple of years. I think Mullinex is working on that. As far as projects, so there are 2 projects we actually funded directly for Berkeley County. We had some EDA CARES funds. So we paid for the Berkeley County Development Authority and the airport to have new drone videography done of their sites. That's actually underway now. I know Jefferson, Morgan's been done. I think the snow and everything's kind of been going off. I'm coming back out. And we also paid, again, because we didn't have enough staff, we paid a consultant, Delta Development, to draft the Build Back Better application on behalf of Berkeley County Development Authority. Fortunately, we weren't awarded that. However, through that entire process, we learned of a number of projects throughout Berkeley County that Region 9 can assist with, including a number of capital improvement projects for the water district. There's been discussion extensively with Brandon's Bar and Gym at the water district. And as of now, we're going to be assisting them with an EDA grant for the Pikeside main water line, and then potentially the airport water tank as well. And those are 50% grants. So I know that was something that I believe some of the council had been in discussion with, trying to find funding to do some of these capital improvements. But there are grants out there, not 100% grants, but a little bit of assistance for those projects. The other projects of Berkeley County, I think you're all familiar with. I mean, this week we should have the notice to proceed on the health department. I just talked to Ryan Halvey at the development office 2 days ago, so hopefully we'll get a move on with that. Our new hire, Megan Deal, with the environmental coordinator, has been working with Zach Walburn on some green infrastructure, stormwater retrofits down at 11. And continue, we're going to have the Sports in Paradise steering committees this month. Had a lengthy conversation with Matt Umstead about some technical assistance for the Roundhouse about a week or so ago. So lots of things going on for us in Berkeley County, and as you can see in this little tiny font, sorry about that, across the 3 counties and all of our municipalities. If you have any questions about any of our projects in any of the counties, feel free to ask.
No, I would, with all the money out there, we'd hate to lose any opportunities of not getting that's for sure.
Yes, yeah, and we're excited about the infrastructure bill. How fast it's finally making its way down to the appropriate agencies. It's going to be overseeing it.
Well, I've said for quite a while now, Berkeley County alone could use $1 billion in infrastructure.
Yeah.
Easy.
And that's why
it sounds like a lot of money, but it didn't take long to go through it.
And that's why it's heartbreaking almost that we can't get that ARC money, because that ARC money is all the infrastructure money, and it's all being put down in the southern portion of West Virginia. It's losing population where we have the same infrastructure problems that they do, and we have a strain on it.
Yeah,
not a loss on.
been telling some of the legislators it's time to have bridges over bridges in Berkeley County.
Right.
You know, it's just, we got some congested areas and unfortunately, you know, the county doesn't own an inch of road and we're probably glad of it, but that's the responsibility of the state, so we definitely would like to move on, just like they are on 81, trying to expand and the other thing too, Rachel, is before long, you know, interstate's gonna have to have upgrades on the ramps.
Yep.
You know, we're increasing the traffic 50%, or at least we're designing for increasing traffic for at least 50%.
That bid that went out, I believe Jefferson Asphalt's got for the widening down through here, that's got ramp work in, doesn't it?
Does it?
I think it does on the northbound. I think it does on the northbound, but I was told from the Department of Highways that they're trying to fund the next one for that same area, which is going to be all ramp work.
I can't believe they didn't upgrade the ramps on exit 16 while they were doing all that work. You know, go ahead and put 2 lanes at least coming off of them, because the last thing, I mean, we're seeing backup traffic on 81. That's bad.
Yeah.
And so,
I know we have the, well, he said exit 16, but yeah, you did get the PR back for Harold Drive mentioned. I had about 50 comments that I sent back to him, so we're waiting on the revision. In addition to them reaching out to you each about an exit 10 as well.
So if you talk about employees, needing employees or being one of the smallest, so what would a couple employees do for your department? What would a couple, I mean, if you had the ability to acquire employees, how many more employees do you think you need to, and what are the results that you're going to be able to produce with those employees that's going to benefit Berkeley County?
So we have been operating with, for all intents and purposes, with 2 staff for a very, very long time. With the addition of the third staff person, as I said, that we're going to be able to finally pursue the broadband grants. I have a strong concern because my assistant director does all of our office administration, all of our finance, our payroll, in addition to working with the most technical of our grants that last about 8 years. They're the construction ones that are very in-depth. She's at max capacity. I would not ask her to take on an additional project. In addition to managing our entire office, she's also working all those projects as well. So we have David now who can do a couple EDA grants, the broadband grants. But again, he's pretty much at max capacity for what he's doing.
And I understand what you're saying, where you're at, but where do you need to be? That's my
I would like to
question.
have two additional staff. I think if we had 2 additional staff, I could have 1 person focus on office administration, as there should be. There should be a separation of duties, I think. 1 person that can handle some of our easier drawdowns, manage our finances, manage our accounting, take that off of our assistant director, who should not be doing that work, so she can focus on working with IJDC, working with USDA, doing these major loan and strategic projects and all that sort of thing. In addition to 1 more project manager that can take on these new infrastructure projects and infrastructure grants that are going to be coming out. Because I have a big fear, hopefully we get this EPA contractor, so I'll have another staff person for just 2 years. But I do have a fear that we're going to see a lot of these grants come out from that infrastructure bill, and we're going to have to start saying no to them because we can't handle it. So having an additional staff person to do project management would be ideal. And I'd like to have my staff kind of divided up into specialties. Have David continue to work on, he's a background in sports management, work on parks and work on broadband. have Jennifer continue to work on the things that she's been working on, the larger construction project, and have some of the smaller infrastructure projects being worked on by the other project manager.
So how much is that gonna increase your productivity? I mean, if you're talking, it sounds like you're talking about 3 people. If you increase at that volume, are you going to be able to double the capacity of what you're working at, or where are you, what are you going to be able to achieve?
It's never going to be, exact double capacity just because of the nature of the grants. Some of the grants may only be $25,000, some may be $3 million. So it's really hard to predict that sort of figure. I can tell you that David right now is working on about $5 million in grants. That's not including anything that comes in with when we start working on construction for broadband. Jennifer's working on probably about $12 to $15 million worth of grants. So we bring in another person that annually costs about $75,000, including benefits.
If you double your staff, you'll have twice the possibility of getting more money.
Yes, I can't.
Right?
Yes,
You'll
I can't.
be writing. Would it be fair to say that you would be going after twice as many, 100% more grants than what you're going to today?
Correct.
Not saying you're going to get rewarded, but
Correct. Yeah,
awarded
I can't. Yeah, I can't give you a figure as the return as far as what all those grants are going to get awarded, the figure of those grants, but it'll double the amount of grants that we can pursue, and there's definitely double the amount of grants that we can pursue.
I guess the other thing too, Rachel, if you did do that, it's an assessment across the whole region. So you're
Right.
not talking a whole lot of money per player.
Right.
And I would hate for us to be in a position needing those dollars and have to say no.
No, you got to
Because we didn't have the staff to manage it.
No, you don't want to wait. That's too late. But so I guess the thing that I would ask for you is, what's the cost? I mean, across the board. I mean, is it twice of the assessment that we're looking at across the board? Is it slightly under? That would be under that because your rent's the same and you're going to
Right.
still fit in the same area, right?
Right. I mean, like I said, the
It's just
standard starting salary, roughly about $75,000. That includes benefits, etc. And that would be divided up amongst the 9 municipalities and counties.
If I was you, I'd be working on that number real quick.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have that the assessment review committee. At the end of each fiscal year, we're going to be looking at that.
But everybody's starting. I mean, we're way ahead of everybody else on our budget presentation, but we'd have to have those numbers.
Yeah, I mean this year, not asking for any more money. This is the figure that we're going with, and that was just to keep David on board to make it through this next year. So at the end of this fiscal year, we're going to review it again. We're going to look at what grants are coming out and see if that 55 cents per person needs to go to 60 cents per person.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Anybody else
Oh,
have any
okay.
questions?
Just as a point of clarification, and Rachel, I know it's in your narrative, but I want it on the record. If the council will remember in the past, when Reach and I presented their budget, it was actually 3 different segments. It was the member allocation, it was the MPO, and it was air quality. This year, in the body of the submission, it specifically states that no discretionary funding for air quality is being requested this year. So if you're wondering why it's not in there, it's because it was not overlooked, it's just not being requested.
Okay.
I didn't think it was fair that we had an environmental program coordinator helping all the municipalities and all of the counties, and only 2 of the counties were contributing to them. So that $30,000 that was being split between the 2 counties and now split between all 12 entities that are benefiting from her services.
All right.
So that's already included in the
Yeah.
your allocation request.
Okay. All right, Rachel, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything you're doing. quick break and we'll come back. You ready? I'm ready. All right, we're back in session. Next on our agenda is Diane Waldorn, Program Manager for Meals on Wheels, budget presentation for 2022-23.
Thank you. I have presents.
You have presents.
Well, they're not from me, but they're from a gentleman that volunteers with us. He takes a drone over the entire state of West Virginia.
I know.
And, oh, you know the gentleman?
do.
Okay. And,
Does great work.
yes, and you already have one. I was
Well,
told.
yes,
I
I
was told
do.
you already have one.
Frank is the brother-in-law to a prior employee of mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, his father, who's 87, is a driver for Meals on Wheels.
Is that right?
Yes, and has been for 30 years.
Frank does wonderful work.
My name's Diane Waldron. I'm the director of Meals on Wheels. I'm honored to be here to represent them because we do amazing work. It takes an army to do it, and it takes a team to do it. And even with the COVID challenges, we have celebrated 50 years of service last year in 2021. We delivered 51,780 meals in 2021 with no interruption in service, which has been a challenge.
With COVID.
We've lost some of our volunteer workforce because of COVID,
Right.
and then the homebound people that we deliver to have been getting COVID, and so we have to make restrictions for our drivers to keep them safe. But the good news is we're still out there, we're still working every day, and we don't plan to have any interruption in service. Just last week, for those of you that don't know about Meals on Wheels, I can't imagine who doesn't, but our mission is to deliver a hot, nutritious, low-cost meal to homebound folks in the county, the entire county. But what we're finding is with COVID and with the demands we have because of the growth of the county and just general food insecurities, we are at our max with the ovens, the workload, everything. We're right there. But it's as important as ever because just last week, one of our drivers arrived at a home, and the gentleman at the home who lives alone was on the floor in the living room. Don't know how long he'd been there. His cell phone had died, and he hadn't charged it. So he had no way to call for help. So at that point, our driver took his cell phone and called me, and I called the emergency contact person that was going to help the gentleman. And I don't know that we can say we saved his life, but we certainly were a big help to this gentleman. He's weak and lives alone, as I said, and I think our driver was a little taken back at the condition the gentleman was in, but we got him some help and he's okay. So my point is, our daily delivery, not just the food, but that human contact is vital right now. It always has been, but I think even more so now, because a lot of these folks are not getting out, and they depend on us.
Yeah, it's a companionship, right? I mean, a lot of times your drivers are very much involved with the people they deliver food to, and
They are, and the reason there's a companionship there and a trust is because our drivers have been driving for like 2 decades. They really know the folks that we deliver to. Every year in January, I send out surveys to the folks that we deliver to just to get some feedback so we can improve what we do, hear what they have to say, and we've been getting dozens and dozens back, and I just brought 3 today. This gentleman is a 97-year-old Korea war vet, and he wrote in his own words, many times while stationed in Korea, I would have paid $50 for a meal like this, which I thought it was so cute.
yeah.
The other one is, there are no words that can describe the quality and value of the Meals on Wheels to me, to people in need. The people that provide this service are people that you would be happy to call your friend. They do trust our drivers, and our drivers have their heart in it. This one says, thank you from my heart for all your hard work and your service. You have been a gift from God for my mother. Stay safe, and I wish you the best. Many of the people we deliver to who live alone, their caretakers are relieved to know we're there every day. It's a big peace of mind situation. So I want to thank you all very much for your past support, we're asking for $3,000 for this coming year. We have to subsidize many of our meals because, as I said, we delivered 51,000 meals. On each meal that we send out, the meal cost us approximately, in 2021, the average was $5 per meal. We only charge a nominal fee of $4. So that alone, we're losing $1 per meal. And also, 30% of those folks cannot afford the $4 payment. So we have to subsidize that.
30%?
Yes, 30%.
Okay,
It's growing.
right.
It used to be 20%.
Yeah, and I'm afraid that might still grow because of inflation.
And our food costs have gone up. I mean, big surprise, right?
Now,
But-
do you have anybody that, grocery stores and stuff that help you with this
Yes,
stuff?
yes, we do. Well, we had Martin's, but we had to stop them because after COVID started up, they just did not have the same quantity. We were looking for desserts and breads that we could use, and they were sending bagels, which we can't use. So it became too time restricted for us to go get the food. But we have such an amazing community that helps donate food to us. I mean, from all over. From, in the summer, a farmer that gives us produce to Weiss and Martin's and Food Lion to churches. And even Mountaineer Food Bank, when they have extra food,
Right.
365 Church will call us and bring us food. Procter & Gamble has helped us with other, like Dawn soap. We got, and Jim knows this because he helped go pick it up at Procter & Gamble.
Yeah, he had to leave here early one day to do it.
Well, he has
Sorry,
a truck.
wife's calling.
Jim has a truck.
Yeah, yeah.
And they called and said, we have 2,000 pounds of Dawn soap. Well, guess what? We don't have a dishwasher. We do all of our dishes and pots and pans by hand. We need Dawn soap. That was donated.
Great.
So we have enough to last us a long time.
Yeah.
Like I said, it takes an army, and this community is amazing, and we thank you all for today for listening to our little plea. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I understand you got a new driver that used to be a county employee too.
Who's that?
Mary?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. She does Route 6, which is
Yeah.
the hardest route.
She said it's a long route.
It is. It takes, that's the other thing, because we've doubled, it's taken the drivers double the time.
Right.
So my goal this year is to get coolers to keep we have coolers to keep the food hot, but I want to get really good coolers to
Right.
keep it hotter for a longer extension of time, so.
Good. Well,
Years and years ago, I used to deliver pizzas, and we had a little sterno can that went in the back of it to keep the pizza box hot.
Wow.
Yeah, you can get the little sterno cans and shove them in there.
Are
I
they
didn't think
safe?
they had those things back then.
Oh,
I thought it was still campfire.
Back in 1908? I'm kidding. I just screwed up, didn't I?
Thank you for your help.
and I was getting ready to tell you how important what you
Oh.
do is, you know? And it is.
It is.
I can't imagine being elderly with nobody there to help me. I'm sure that, you know, at some point when I'm gone, my wife will have somebody doing just what you're doing, you have going on, so that, you know, there's somebody coming to see her all the time, and at least
Think she's gonna miss you?
huh? Well, she might not miss me, but I'm sure she'll be happy to have at least somebody showing up.
It's amazing. There's so many folks out there that do live alone and don't have a whole lot of family support. And just like those calendars, they're getting a calendar. We gave out, Procter & Gamble gave us these beautiful gift boxes. Jim knows about that. He helped pick them up too. Wonderful gift boxes for every one of our recipients. And we also deliver not only the whole county, but we deliver every day, Monday through Friday, to all the seniors in King's Daughters Court, the senior housing.
Right, right.
We deliver to them and make sure they have a snow kit. So maybe Monday, when we can't send our drivers out in 5 inches of snow or whatever, they'll have that non-perishable meal as a backup.
Where are you guys located at now?
116 East King Street on the corner of King and Spring across from BB&T. We're down in the kitchen, the basement.
Yeah, Old King Daughter's Court.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the meals are made fresh every morning there.
Yeah, I thought maybe you guys had moved out of there. I know you guys have been there a long time.
No, we're
Antiquated kitchen, but it's nice size.
yes, it's old, but like Jim says, it's a nice size. And we have just dozens and dozens of volunteers help us in the kitchen every day. Just so happens Jim's wife chops carrots and cucumbers and onions and cleans potatoes. We could not work without our volunteers. They are simply the backbone of what we do. How could we deliver to the whole county without volunteers?
Well, it was interesting to hear that not only that, but your drivers are on a rotation, so they're not getting burnt out every day. It's like 1 or 2 days a week or something.
Absolutely. One of our drivers lives in Jefferson County, and he drives 100 miles for one route for us.
Oh, my.
He loves it. He's been doing it for years. And gas isn't cheap anymore, so far we haven't had any complaints from our drivers because they love what they do.
Great.
Any questions or comments or
No,
anything?
Just thank you.
Oh,
And everybody
it's my honor. It truly is. Thank you.
All right. All right, next on our agenda is the Honorable Elaine Malk, County Clerk, Nathan Emery, Voters Registration Supervisor, order changing all election precinct boundaries. How y'all doing today?
We're doing fine, but it's an upset the apple cart with this situation. I mean, we've expanded and had to do some changes with the magistrate. Now we have to redistrict because of rural reasons. Urban, you have to have 1,500 voters in a precinct, or 700 in rural. So we've gone from 66 to 80 precincts,
Right.
which is what we're offering to the council to approve. We're in the process. We have lined up at least one of our early voting stations besides the gun building, and I haven't gotten the consent yet from the second. So North and South Berkeley will both be covered, so we'll have 3 stations on that.
All right.
I think that's going to be a huge benefit for the community.
Yeah.
Have you located the voting place or just?
We've got the location. We're waiting for the response back.
All right. So you're wanting us to approve all the sites and things. I see some people from the cities here as well, so, everything's good to go. Again, we went from 66 to 80.
Yes, sir.
And what was the concerns with the city?
I can speak to that. We were, hi, Gina Long, I'm the city recorder, and therefore, one of the hats I wear is the chief election official for the city of Martinsburg. We saw the proposed map this morning, and we're a little concerned when we noticed that many of the city precincts seem to straddle city limit lines. And West Virginia State Code requires us, if at all practicable, to ensure that our precincts line up with your precincts. If they don't, then we are required to maintain our own voter registration records. And thinking of the voters in my city, that would be a lot of confusion and a very disastrous thing to have to try to do right away before our next election. Some of my concerns have been alleviated. I spoke with Gary and Elaine. They have assured me that there are ways to divide those precincts so that city voters get their city voter ballot, county voters get theirs. And where that might be important is if we need to and are able to get permission from the clerk to put a levy on a county ballot. We've done it before.
Right.
The state seems to be attempting to move in the direction of requiring municipalities to combine with counties, and we can only do that if the precincts line up. Otherwise, we would not be able to be in line. But again, Gary has told me that they can divide a precinct. For instance, precinct 1 would have a section labeled precinct 1C to designate that that is the city portion of the precinct. And if that is the case, we just want on record that that is our concern, and it is a valid concern. But if that is the case, and we are able to do that and limit our voter registration, then we are comfortable with that option. Otherwise, we would ask that you please try to work with us to make sure that those precincts line up as much as humanly possible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gina. All right, so Mr. Wine, or I'm gonna call Mr. Wine up because his IT department's the one that helps do this.
So, pardon me, working with Clerk Mock and Nathan in voters registration, we were completely aware that the city needed to be able to clearly and easily define what is only a municipal precinct. Explain a little bit of how we got here. When you're tasked with magisterial redistricting, every 10 years based on population, when we did the math, as you are all intimate with, our goal per target for the magisterial districts was 22,000 and change. The city of Martinsburg population is 18,000 and change. So in order for us to balance the magisterial districts, we had to expand.
Districts, right.
We had to expand Adam Stephen outside the boundaries of Martinsburg. We have that boundary clear and concise inside the GIS software where all of this was drawn. So as Ms. Long said, I don't know how many precincts are in the city, but let's just say there are 10 of them. There'll be precinct 1 through 10, and then there'll be precinct 1 through 10C, and the C will say that that's a city precinct. So there'll be some hurdles to deal with. Nathan expected to see that. Maybe our fault, having not reached out to Gina, I apologize, but we clearly understood that in order to equal the magisterial districts, we were going to have to make Adam Stephen larger. It's very easy to say, okay, of the 22,500 Adam Stephen voters, only 18,200 are within the municipality of Martinsburg. We have that information. We'll work through that.
And basically, really, to balance it out, you have no choice to do what you're doing.
You did not. In Ms. Long reference, if you can, if there aren't any circumstances, well, for us to meet criteria 1 is to have all of them as balanced as possible. That's how we started. So for us technically to say, okay, precinct 1 and 1C, we're prepared.
But the good thing is the city's starting to grow. There's a lot of excitement downtown and with interwoven and everything else that's going on, and it's exciting times. So
Is the reason you're calling it 1C just because it makes it smaller? I mean, does it make more sense to say one city and one not? And the only reason I'm saying that is because, sometimes you have elderly people that have a little bit of confusion to be able to, or younger guys like, myself, that have a little bit of confusion.
I don't know the rules and regulations. We can name it anything. We haven't named it.
Right.
The C is just off the cuff what we talk about. We can do anything, whatever the law says we can do. So it could be one and then one city. It's up to whoever. We'll label it however you ask.
Well, if the city should modify its boundaries, can you cover for that too?
Sure.
that would be future.
You didn't say annexation.
You mean if the city starts shrinking, Jeff?
Yeah, either way. Either way.
I know where Andy's going. I got to hold him back.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Blake.
Andy Blake, City of Martinsburg. The state law allows you to do this unless it's fully impracticable. So to explain to the city citizens, if you do this, we would just ask that make a finding that it's wholly impracticable to do this. So when someone asks us why all these precincts changed after many years, we can explain what Gary was saying, but maybe it could be part of your findings as you vote to approve this.
All right. Thank you. All right, Ms. Mock.
That was the only comment I was going to make, because we had to get them within 22,000 magisterial districts, and of course, the cities of 18. And part of the redistricting is we're going to be sending out every individual a new voting card, so it'll be marked on that.
All right.
So that'll be taken care of.
All right. Well, I guess it'd be appropriate, I know it's under our umbrella,
Right.
but in cooperation with the city of Martinsburg, it might be appropriate on how they want that language to be on that precinct.
Yes. Yeah.
And will, for instance, precinct 1 and precinct 1C, they'll continue to vote at the same place at the same
But it should vote everything. Sure. There's a lot of precincts that are going to change. Most of the city precincts are at the same location.
That's okay if we have to move them within the city. I'm just saying, if we have a county resident who is precinct 1 and a city resident who is precinct 1C, they will report to the same place to vote. Their ballot will just reflect.
And plus, plus the poll workers will be well educated on that too.
Yes, thank you.
But hypothetically, if there's a city levy question on a county ballot, only the residents would get, there'd be a separate ballot for 1C and a separate ballot for 1.
Yeah, your levies normally are these paper ballots that can be handed individually, so that's not something that's all on the, like, the state register.
All right. Any other concerns?
Mrs. Malk and I met last week, talked about the increase in precincts. And one of the things I'll be bringing to you as a part of state budget revision 8 at the end of this week is, or at the end of this month, will be an increase in her postage budget, because we do want to get the word out to everyone by postcard of what their precinct is and where it's located. And we're going to need some additional contractual employees, so we're gonna tweak that. And she and I have worked through that, and we'll take care of that at the end of this month, so that she has adequate funding in 413 to take care of it.
Yeah, the clock's ticking up.
Yes, sir. And the issue with the funding, I appreciate Mr. Davis meeting with me, is the statistics that have been in the budget on voter registration has not been updated to reflect, like the election that Mr. Scholl had last year, that we went from 77,000 to 118, and now that was with 66. Now we have 80. So the numbers are there's probably, besides the money that we end up importing into it this time, there might be some additional funding because of postage going up so much. Because absentee votes is right now, for an absentee, it's $1.18, I think, per envelope. That isn't counting the envelope and the package of stuff that goes out.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of expenses that just for redistricting is between the 80,000 things, letters going out, the cost of the new voters cards, et cetera, is $54,000.
And we just purchased new voting machines, and
Yes.
how many machines did we get the last time? 80.
Eight.
That's what I thought. So
Yes.
we have no spares.
No spares.
There's spares built into the 80.
Okay. Okay.
It's not one per precinct, there's plenty.
Okay.
You have spares.
So we're covered.
Yes, sir. $1.3 million worth of that.
Okay.
To the next, after 10 years, we're gonna start over.
Yeah. All right. All right. Ask for a motion to approve the magisterial, or actually the precinct boundaries, and the 80 precincts, going from 66 to 80% precincts, and with the consideration of the city of Martinsburg's concerns that we have been addressed, and work with them as well.
Second.
The motion been made, second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Thank you all. All right, Mr. Davis, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. You want to go ahead with some of your items?
I may have one, and I would like to have
Okay. All right.
Brian and
Will, you have everybody here for the state hearing for Mr. Poisel?
I believe I do, Council, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, we can start with you then.
All right.
Next agenda item is Will Lawrence, the fiduciary supervisor for a state hearing of the state of George Jacob Poisel III.
Yes, Council, good morning. We have two petitions this morning for petitions to probate a will, in solemn form, which, as this council will recall, details essentially a facial abnormality with a will that the council needs to vote on to move forward with in any event. Both wills this morning deal with copies of the will, not the tangible originals, which are required by West Virginia law. Speaking specifically on the estate of Mr. Poisel III, the will goes into some detail and actually counteracts several specific bequeaths that would counteract, essentially, would counteract intestate succession, i.e. going forward without a will. There are great nephews identified that would take nothing. There are specific bequeaths outside of that as well. So in order for those intentions to be honored, the council would have to act accordingly. With that, I will invite any party interested to speak on the estate's behalf of George Jacob Poisel III.
Hi, how's everybody?
Good.
I've had it with this cold weather and with all the COVID stuff. Dude, you know, I hope our governor's going to be okay.
That worries me. But please state your name for the record. So
Yes, Robert Barrett. I'm here for the petitioners, my wife Ann Barrett, who just walked in, and we have her and her brother and her sister also will all come in to state that the copy of the will is the same will that was in his writing, and it was the same as the original, and that that was really his wish.
Okay.
That he wanted not intestacy, but he wanted his estate distributed just as the way the will is. Does anybody want to see a copy of the will? I have plenty of copies here.
No, we're good. I think.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you want me to call a witness or.
Sure.
Okay. I'll call Bob Downey.
We want to swear all the witnesses in at one time.
Okay. Bob and
Anybody that's going to testify, come forward at a time.
Okay.
Tracy.
Anthony,
I guess it's you.
Can you all please raise your right hand? Oh, sorry. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
We just put you right on the spot.
Write that down.
So much for that, office administrator.
Tracy's only been here for about 5 years.
Yeah. Train her a little more.
Yeah.
7 years.
7 years? Been that long already?
It has.
Oh my gosh. All right, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
We have a little fun around here, that's all.
You want to state your full name?
Robert Downey.
And how are you related to George Poisel?
He's my uncle.
Are you familiar with his handwriting?
Mm-hmm.
Is it your testimony today that that will is all in his handwriting?
Yes.
Okay. Did you bring a sample of his handwriting in?
No.
Okay, I see something else. But it's your testimony that entire will was in his handwriting?
Yes.
Did you ever hear him talk about the will?
Yeah, actually, I remember when he actually did this. So.
Okay. And is it your testimony that's how he would like his estate distributed?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have a question.
All right, thank you.
I call Ellen. Okay, you want to state your full name for the court?
Jean Ellen Hughes.
Okay. And how are you related to George Poisel?
He's my uncle.
Okay. And Bob's your brother?
Yes.
Okay. Is it your testimony, if I ask you the same questions, is it your testimony that that will is all in his handwriting?
Absolutely.
All right, did you bring a sample of his
I do.
handwriting?
I would like to see a sample of this. I would like to see the sample in the will, just so real quick. I'll pass around if you don't mind.
Sure thing. Is the sample in substantially the same form and the same kind of handwriting that the will is?
Yes.
Did you ever hear George Poisel talk about his will?
Yes.
And was that will how he wanted everything distributed?
Yes.
From his estate? Do you have any reason to doubt at all that the entire will was in his estate?
I have no reason to doubt it.
Anybody else?
I don't have any other questions.
Good. Thank you.
I just hope that suffices, and I will ask this will be admitted appropriate.
Okay.
I assume that you looked for the original will in all the places that you looked for.
Yes. Yes, it was, the house was searched. Completely top to bottom.
And you have no idea what happened to the original will?
No. He had another residence in Washington State, and it may be there.
some phrases to match.
All right. Will and Anthony, you find no reason not to grant this?
Correct. I find no reason not to, and this isn't like a criminal trial where he has to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt, and there's nobody contesting it. There's no evidence against it, so I see no reason not to admit the will.
All right. Mr. Lawrenson?
Yes, counsel, I agree with Mr. Delegati. There seems to be no real conflict here. It's just a matter of getting the will admitted to probate and the testamentary intent honored. With that, I ask the council to vote to probate the copy of the will of George Jacob Poisel III.
All right, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We'll take the recommendations of Judiciary Supervisor Mr. Will Lawrenson and approve the will and probate. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you, counsel. And with both of these petitions, I will have a approval or declination, depending on how the next vote goes, to your office by end of business tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
All right, have a good.
And, counsel, I'm unsure of the parties here for the state of Sarah P. Wills, so if you'd like to take a short recess, I appreciate
They're
it.
not here yet?
I do not know if they are.
Okay.
I'm going to take a quick
All right.
look around.
All right, Mr. Davis, I think all
Yes, sir.
parties are involved. Next on our agenda is Alan Davis, County Administrator, recommendation to create Division of Community Development. Sir, if you would.
Yes, sir. As the council's aware, Heather Williams, who was our planning director, retired effective December 2nd, 2021. We went through the recruitment process, interviewed qualified applicants, had some discussion internally and with the council about the best way to approach the whole community development delivery aspect of this organization. As this council is aware, anytime that we have a change in departmental leadership, we look at opportunities to become more efficient and streamline the operations. It was apparent when we went through we created the Division of Community Corrections several years ago with Tim Zaya as the division director, who has home confinement, day reports, and recovery resources, which you know has been very, very effective. Recently, we created the Division of Emergency Services, which now has our emergency manager and soon to be a separate and distinct fire department, which I'll be discussing with you as part of the budget process. We will have two separate departments, two separate call centers. What I'm proposing to you today is the creation of our third division, the Division of Community Development, with Brian Ross, who is currently our Engineering Permits and Inspections Director, as the new director of the division. Within the division, we would have three distinct departments. We would have the planning department, we would have engineering, and we would have permits and inspections. Under the planning umbrella, we are also recommending that Laura Hoffmaster and Brian and Laura here be promoted from planner to senior planner. And she would be responsible for all the technical aspects of the planning department. Brian would do, under the proposal, Brian would take care of budget and personnel issues and any problems that may arise with developers and contractors. Laura would be in charge of the workflow within the planning department would assign plats as they come in, new projects and things like that to the staff. As part of that reorganization, because we do need the technical, the professional planners on board, recommending that we hire a planner one, so that we would have Laura as the senior planner, Monique Boots as the planner two. We would have a new planner one position, which is typically where we bring in planners, and then assistant. And we think that certainly there's some reorganization within the department, whereas Sarah is capable and willing to take ability. So that would take care of the planning side of it. Engineering, our engineering department currently, as far as the budget goes, has the two PEs, professional engineers. We have the assistant engineer, and we have a plans examiner. One of the things that we've been discussing collectively for some time is, as you know, we have a difficult time hiring PEs. We're very, very fortunate now that we have Jim Golden and Doug Smith, but who knows? They may decide to retire, relocate, or take another job. What I'm proposing is, or what we're proposing as part of this reorganization, for all intent purposes, is to hire an engineer in training. Once a qualified person graduates from engineering school, in order to become a licensed PE in the state, you have to have 4 years of either training, mentorship, tutorial under an engineer. We would bring, at least the concept is to bring in someone, maybe a recent graduate of WVU in engineering, and let them do their training and mentorship and tutorial under the existing staff that we have. As you know, Jim Golden came to us from Department of Highways. His forte is transportation engineering. Whereas Doug Smith deals with all the subdivision regulations and things like that. So, the person, if we could find an engineer in training, would benefit from the mentorship of both of these gentlemen.
Would you be looking to change this from an engineer in training to a full-fledged engineer?
Once they became
A PE?
eligible
Yeah.
and passed the examination.
That's the whole main one of the reasons to do it. I'm not saying the whole reason, but the main reason is to be able to have that person to make the next step. And by that time be well versed on how the county operates and what to look forward to and stuff like that.
And then on the permits and inspection side, the only change that we are proposing is that we hire an additional building inspector. One of the things that Brian has, and I admire him for what he has done over the years. Brian does not ask his staff to do anything that he's not willing to do themselves. And since Brian has become the department head, the number of irate developers and contractors and property owners, particularly when it comes to the distressed properties that come in to see me, is minimal, if not non-existent, because Brian is out in the field. He's meeting with property owners. When we have a surplus of building inspections to be done, he's become a certified building inspector. He may grab 20, 30, 40 inspections for the day, and he gets out in the field and he does those inspections. He meets with property owners on distressed properties, and certainly he's capable of this new responsibility. My concern with Brian, and he and I have been discussing this since well before the Christmas vacation holidays, was the fact that he needs to delegate a little bit more. We're hoping that having some of these other positions in place will allow him to do that. I asked him before Christmas to take the holidays and go home and talk it over with Wendy, his wife, to make sure that, to make sure that she's on board with it, and told him that we would certainly work together to make sure that he's delegating the way he should so that he doesn't get burned out. We have a tendency, as we've done with Mike Lang, with Tim Zaya, with Randy Lilly, that when we have those, I call them the 1%ers, that regardless of what we give them, they're willing to do. Sometimes we have a tendency to
keep giving it
to them.
Right, Tracy?
So that's the proposal today. Brian, do you want to come up and share your thoughts, and then we'll have Laura come up, and Laura's been made aware of the proposal and is in agreement with it. So,
okay. First, I'd like to thank the council for having the confidence in me to accept this position and realizing what I need to do to accomplish that. I think Mr. Whitaker put it bluntly just the other week when he made the statement, yeah, you have a backup plan for everybody, but what about you? And, it makes me think I am the way I am. I do know I need to delegate more, which I started in my first meeting with the engineering department just the other day, and delegated some responsibility around. I'm a very hands-on person, as we all know, and that's hard to step away from. I will still be there, but not to the extent that I currently am. And I know I need to do that. Currently, since before Christmas, with Mr. Davis and you guys basically naming me interim, I have been spending a lot of time with the planning department, with Ms. Hoffmaster and Ms. Boots and Sarah, and kind of developing that relationship to where we can move forward. And just the time that we've spent together, talking about projects between Monique and Laura, the communication is there, and that's where it starts. So I just want to thank you, and I look forward to doing this. I really do.
Under permits and inspections, office administrators, does her she have any increased duties because of this, or how are you going to?
Currently, not right now. Melanie is a Penny and Tracy. Melanie is Penny and Tracy. You ask them to do something and they do it. They're wonderful people. Melanie and I have discussed this, that if she feels that there is added workload given to her, that's when Mr. Davis and I can sit down and discuss any possible changes with that.
And if we remember, she last July did some internal equity adjustments, 3 or 4 of them, and she was one of them that we had dealt with back then.
Correct.
Yeah, we have a lot of 1%ers. I mean, you Mr. Davis named a few, but I mean, we have a very, very strong team throughout the county.
Yeah, and just
now,
like
the future of this department, Director of Community Development, I can see additional departments being assigned to this, environmental, something.
correct.
So, this thing only can get bigger.
And at that point, anything added moving future will be a discussion with the council for me having a right-hand person directly underneath me.
The only question I have, I think, I heard something.
Did he start to think like us? I know.
Well,
It's time
He's
for a
sick.
break.
He's not feeling too good.
I'm lightheaded.
Yeah, so our floodplain manager, which is under Randy,
Well, right.
how's that fit in this org chart?
Our certified floodplain manager had been Heather.
Right.
Monique Boots has been through the training. but for whatever reason didn't take the examination, and she's eligible to do that. Let me with some refreshers. She will eventually be a certified floodplain manager. Way back in the end of November, when we received Heather's resignation, that was our biggest point of concern. And during the department head staff meeting, it was brought to our attention that Sean Wooford, who is our emergency manager in a previous position, was actually a certified floodplain manager. And he more than agreed to step up and help us in that area until Moody becomes certified. So, and I think it's worked out pretty well and really hasn't put a whole lot of additional.
No, it hasn't put a damper on any turnaround times. And also, if you are a licensed PE in the state of West Virginia, you are also allowed to review and critique floodplain. So we had the avenues covered, but thanks to Randy, it didn't add workload to current staff. Someone else is doing it for us, and they're doing a great job.
So our two PEs and Sean can all do
So
floodplain.
even though it's not part of the org chart, which it can't be a part of the org chart, naturally there's a good working relationship between Sean and you and
Correct.
and the planning department, all that stuff.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Brian? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Laura, you want to come up? Laura's our super user when it comes to planning, and all of this, you know, this reorganization proposal before you is really made possible through LAMA. Under the old ACT program, I'm not so sure we could pull this off, but with LAMA, Brian can sit in his office or actually in the comfort of his home and go into LAMA and see what's going on in planning, what do they have in the pipeline, what the comments are, where they are in addressing the comments, what engineering's doing, what's planning doing. So LAMA kind of brings all this together and makes this possible. Is that correct?
Correct. There's more accessibility relating to this LAMA versus the ACT program, and a lot of it has to do with just the mapping and the GIS and the associations of multiple projects between land development to building permits for a parcel of ground. And that association just makes things a lot easier for tracking.
Good, thank you. All right, Laura, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
So first off, we're pretty excited to move forward. Our department's, rather small, so the people that are there now and that have been there, we already have working relationships with the engineering department, with Brian and Doug Smith, because we work so closely with them with our projects. So, like Brian said, the communication's there. We're constantly discussing projects with one another and kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. So, we're just, happy to go forward and move on.
Yeah, it intertwines so tightly. I mean, yeah, one affects the other.
Yeah, exactly. So
it sounds like it should be under one big department.
Well, I mean, every project besides minor plats, we have engineering input, and we've learned from the engineering aspect, and Doug and the other engineers have also looked at things from the planning aspect. So we work really closely together. Every project, we kind of, have similar thoughts and comments as it relates just to our relationship with kind of collaborating on projects. But
Okay. All right.
And this works out well with the master plan redesign of the Dunn building.
Right.
As you know, there's no changes being proposed to planning or engineering, so that Brian's office location where it is now fits in well to this division.
Brian's the most accessible person in the whole building. I
He
mean,
is.
every time you get on the second floor, you're looking right at him.
Yeah, and many times
I get a lot of jokes about that, saying I wouldn't have my desk that way. I would turn my desk around.
Well, what we could do, we could just close your door off, right? And then just have a door going right into planning. right? And then, you know, every time I come in the morning, I'm not going like this.
He's also the information kiosk, so if you need to know where you get a
You need to go to?
concealed permit,
Yeah.
you
Go to Brian.
I've also had the comment from one person that we all know that is a perfect shot from about 150 yards. So that has been made to me once.
Yeah. All right, Laura. Anybody have questions for Laura?
Now, Laura, you are eligible. What's the certification that?
It's the Association of International Certified Planners, so it's called AICP. You're eligible based on your education level. So with my education level, I was eligible to apply and take the test and do written exams after 4 years. So January 2nd was 4 years in my position. So I believe in April I can apply to start that process, and then should have the tests and everything wrapped up by the end of the year.
Good.
And we will make sure account 439 has the funds available for training and education.
Yeah. All right.
And you're comfortable being the technical lead in the planning department and some additional responsibility.
Yeah, and it's something that